Have you ever felt an intense pull towards someone? A connection that felt significant, perhaps even destined, yet it brought more turmoil than peace? It's a confusing and often disheartening experience, leaving us questioning ourselves and the nature of love itself. If you felt this internal conflict, know you are not alone. These feelings are not random. They are signals from the deeper parts of your psyche. Fortunately, the pioneering work of psychiatrist Carl Jung offers a powerful lens through which to understand these complex dynamics. Jung delved into the depths of the unconscious, revealing how unseen forces shape our attractions and relationships. Join me as we explore his profound insights, uncovering the true meaning behind these intense connections and discovering how they can guide you toward greater clarity and self-understanding. This powerful idea, often called the mirror concept, suggests that the people we feel this magnetic pull towards are not just individuals we are attracted to. They are potent reflections of our own internal landscape. Carl Jung's profound exploration of the psyche provides the framework for this understanding. He taught us that our conscious awareness, the part we identify with as our ego, is merely the tip of the iceberg. Beneath it lies the vast, often mysterious realm of the unconscious. It's in this unconscious territory that we store past experiences, unacknowledged emotions, and hidden aspects of ourselves. When we encounter someone who triggers such intense feelings, they often bypass our carefully constructed persona, the social mask we wear, and speak directly to these deeper, less conscious layers. The intensity isn't about them being perfect or inherently different. It's about how their qualities, behaviors, or even their perceived flaws resonate with something buried within us. Crucially, these mirror figures often highlight our unhealed wounds. Perhaps you experienced abandonment early in life, and you're drawn to someone who is emotionally unavailable, recreating the familiar pain. Or maybe you carry deep feelings of unworthiness, and you find yourself fixated on someone whose validation you desperately crave. The other person becomes a screen onto which the unconscious projects these unresolved issues, forcing them into our awareness through the sheer force of the emotional connection. But the mirroring goes even deeper, revealing the shadow. Jung described the shadow as the unknown, darker side of the personality. Everything we deny or suppress about ourselves, the traits we might even judge in others, but secretly possess. Sometimes we are intensely attracted to qualities in another person that are part of our own disavowed shadow. Aspects like confidence, freedom, or creativity that we have repressed. Conversely, we might be intensely repelled or triggered by traits in them that are also aspects of our shadow, but we see them only in the other person, not ourselves. This connection, whether attractive or aversive, serves as a powerful call from the unconscious to acknowledge and integrate these hidden parts. This difficult process of confronting what the mirror shows us is fundamental to Jung's concept of individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming a whole, integrated self. The self, Jung believed, is the totality of the psyche, encompassing both conscious and unconscious elements, and it constantly strives for wholeness. These intense mirrored attractions can be seen as a push from the self, using the other person as a catalyst to bring what is unconscious into consciousness. Dreams can also play a role here, often reflecting the dynamics at play in these relationships through symbols and archetypes, offering clues from the deeper parts of our psyche about what is being stirred. Sometimes events surrounding these connections feel almost uncanny, a kind of synchronicity where internal psychological states seem to align with external events, further emphasizing the significance of what is being revealed. The discomfort or pain we experience isn't pointless. It's a signal pointing us inward. It's an invitation to look beyond the surface of the relationship and ask, what is this person showing me about myself? This shift in perspective from focusing solely on the other person to exploring our own internal landscape is where the potential for transformation lies. Instead of trying to change the other person or understand why they are the way they are, the real work begins when we turn the mirror back towards ourselves. What specific fear is being activated? What old wound is being poked? What denied part of my shadow is demanding recognition? It requires courage to honestly face these questions, because the reflection isn't always flattering. It might show us our desperate need for external approval, our deep-seated insecurities, or our capacity for traits we prefer to ignore. But this confrontation is essential because these unconscious elements, when unacknowledged, continue to exert powerful control over our lives and relationships. They can sabotage genuine connection, keep us stuck in painful patterns, and prevent us from moving forward on our path towards individuation. By understanding that the intensity of the attraction or the pain of the connection is serving a purpose, a psychological function driven by the unconscious pushing for growth, we can begin to navigate these relationships differently. We move from a place of confusion and hurt to one of potential self-discovery. It's about recognizing that the magnetic pull isn't necessarily a sign that this person is your soulmate in the romantic sense, but rather that they are a significant teacher in your journey toward knowing your full self. The other person is not the problem. They are the messenger. And the message is always about you. Facing the shadow aspects revealed in these mirrors can be daunting. These are the parts of ourselves we have carefully hidden, often since childhood. Perhaps our vulnerability, our anger, our neediness, or our fear of not being enough. The persona we've built might crumble slightly under the weight of these revelations. The ego, which prefers to see itself as whole and acceptable, often resists acknowledging these hidden flaws. However, Carl Jung emphasized that integration of the shadow is not about becoming perfect, but about becoming whole. It's about bringing light to the unconscious, making the unknown known, and thereby expanding our conscious awareness and capacity for genuine connection, both with ourselves and others. This process is rarely easy or linear. There will likely be resistance, denial, and pain. But the intensity of the attraction serves as a powerful motivator, a signal from the deepest levels of the psyche that something important is happening. It's the self calling out for attention, for integration, for movement towards wholeness. The symbols that appear in our dreams might offer further guidance, providing intuitive insights into the nature of the unconscious material being activated by these relationships. Learning to pay attention to these internal signals, rather than getting lost in the drama of the external relationship, is key. It requires shifting our focus from the person in the mirror to the reflection itself, and understanding what that reflection signifies about our own internal landscape. These relationships, while potentially painful, are not punishments. They are opportunities. Opportunities to heal old wounds, to integrate denied aspects of the shadow, and to move further along the path of individuation. They are, in essence, guided tours into the hidden chambers of our own unconscious, with the goal of bringing more of ourselves into conscious awareness and becoming more complete individuals. The intense attraction or significant connection is like a signal flare from the self, indicating that important unconscious material is constellating and ready to be integrated. It's a chance to understand the archetypes that might be influencing our choices and reactions, and to see how synchronicity might be highlighting the psychological significance of the encounter. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we can learn to ask, "Why is this happening within me, and what is it showing me about myself?" This perspective shift empowers us, moving us from feeling like a victim of confusing feelings to becoming an active participant in our own psychological growth. It allows us to use the relationship as a tool for self-discovery, rather than getting lost in the emotional turmoil. The other person, in this light, becomes a valuable catalyst on our journey towards a more integrated and authentic self. They hold up the mirror, but we are the ones who must look into it and bravely face what we see. It's not about blaming the other person for our pain. It's about acknowledging that they have inadvertently triggered pre-existing patterns and wounds within us. This realization is incredibly powerful because it shifts the focus from trying to change the external situation to working on our internal state. It's about recognizing that the intensity comes from the depths of our own unconscious, activated by the specific resonance with the other person. This resonance touches upon archetypal patterns of relating and often highlights aspects of our shadow that we have repressed since childhood. The dreams we have during these periods can be particularly insightful, offering symbolic language from the self to help us understand what is being revealed. Paying attention to these symbols and the feelings they evoke can provide valuable clues. The feeling of synchronicity that sometimes accompanies these connections isn't just random chance. It can be seen as the unconscious bringing together the external circumstances needed for internal psychological movement. The goal is not necessarily a successful relationship with the other person, but successful integration of the material they have brought to light within us. This is the essence of using these intense connections as catalysts for individuation. It's about understanding that the primary relationship being worked on is the one with ourselves, the relationship between our conscious ego and the vast, unexplored territories of our unconscious. By facing the shadow, healing the wounds, and integrating the denied aspects of our personality, we move closer to the totality of ourself. This doesn't mean the external relationship can't also grow or change, but the focus shifts from trying to make the other person fulfill our unmet needs to addressing those needs from within. And this journey, while potentially incredibly illuminating, is often deeply uncomfortable. It requires immense courage, because the ego is usually quite attached to the feeling of intensity. It can feel exhilarating, confirming, or even feel like a lifeline if we have a deep-seated fear of abandonment or invisibility. The ego can interpret this intense activation as proof that we are finally seen, finally worthy of such powerful emotion. It can become entwined with our persona, the mask we present to the world, perhaps adopting a role that feels necessary to keep this intoxicating connection alive, even if it means suppressing aspects of our authentic self. We might project an idealized image onto the other person, seeing them through the lens of our own archetypal longings, rather than truly seeing them in their complex totality, flaws and all. And they, in turn, might be reacting to the persona we present, or projecting their own shadow material onto us. Carl Jung's work reminds us that these projections are a fundamental part of how our unconscious interacts with the external world. The person triggering such intensity isn't inherently the source of the feeling. They are the screen onto which our internal movie is being projected. The powerful emotions aren't necessarily about the quality of the connection with the other, but about the volume being turned up on the conversations happening within our own unconscious. This is where the shadow often makes its presence known. The parts of us we deny, repress, or dislike are frequently activated by the very person who attracts us intensely. Their irritating habits might mirror our own disowned traits. Their strengths might highlight our perceived weaknesses. This is not random. It is the psyche using the relationship dynamic to bring this material into conscious awareness, a crucial step towards individuation. The symbols that emerge in our dreams during these times are the unconscious communicating directly with the ego, offering guidance on how to navigate this complex landscape. A recurring symbol might represent a core fear, an unacknowledged archetype dominating the dynamic, or a pathway towards integration. Paying attention to these symbols, reflecting on their meaning, and connecting them to the intensity we feel can provide profound insights that bypass the ego's often misleading interpretations. And the sense of synchronicity? While thrilling, it's less about fate dictating a specific outcome with that person and more about the universe aligning circumstances to support the inner work that needs to happen. It's the self providing a nudge, confirming that we are on a path where significant psychological growth is possible, even if painful. Moving towards genuine love from this state of intensity requires consciously disentangling the projection from the reality of the other person, and more importantly, disentangling the internal activation from the notion of external validation. It demands that we shift our focus from managing the external relationship to tending the internal one, the relationship between our conscious ego and the vast, creative, sometimes terrifying landscape of the unconscious. It's about learning to comfort our own inner child, integrate our shadow, and cease projecting our unmet needs onto another individual. Only then can we begin to see the other person more clearly, as a fellow traveler with their own self, their own journey, their own persona, and their own shadow. True love in this context is less about the initial explosive spark and more about the slow, steady flame of conscious recognition, acceptance, and respect. It involves the ego making a deliberate choice to engage with the other not from a place of frantic need or idealized projection, but from a more grounded and integrated state, informed by the wisdom of the self. This doesn't mean there are no intense feelings in true love. There absolutely can be. But the source and interpretation of that intensity change. It's no longer fueled primarily by the unconscious need for validation or the activation of wounded archetypes, but by a genuine appreciation for the other's being and a shared commitment to growth, individually and together. It's a love that supports mutual individuation rather than hindering it through fusion or codependency. The challenge is in the differentiation, learning to discern the echo of our own unconscious processes from the authentic connection with another soul. This discernment is a lifelong practice, often refined through the crucible of these very intense, yet potentially misleading experiences. It's about training the ego to question its immediate assumptions, to listen to the deeper whispers of the self, and to work collaboratively with the unconscious, rather than being solely driven by its hidden currents. The path forward involves conscious reflection, perhaps journaling about dreams and their symbols, seeking understanding of the archetypes playing out, and bravely facing the aspects of the shadow that the intense connection has brought to the surface. This discernment is a lifelong practice, often refined through the crucible of these very intense yet potentially misleading experiences. It's about training the ego to question its immediate assumptions, to listen to the deeper whispers of the self, and to work collaboratively with the unconscious, rather than being solely driven by its hidden currents. The path forward involves conscious reflection, perhaps journaling about dreams and their symbols, seeking understanding of the archetypes playing out, and bravely facing the aspects of the shadow that the intense connection has brought to the surface. This external attraction isn't random. Carl Jung saw patterns in life that mirrored our inner landscape. This isn't cosmic punishment, but a profound form of synchronicity. Life aligns external events and relationships in ways that perfectly reflect the state of our inner world, particularly the parts hidden in the unconscious. When we feel a persistent emptiness, for example, we might attract relationships that highlight that absence. This isn't because the other person is bad, but because their inability or unwillingness to fill that void forces us to confront the internal source of the emptiness. This external reflection is often the first time the ego truly becomes aware of certain aspects of the shadow. The shadow, containing rejected or unacknowledged parts of ourselves, often manifests in the difficulties we encounter in relationships or the patterns we repeat. Confronting the shadow is a crucial step in individuation, the process of integrating the various aspects of the psyche, the ego, the unconscious, the persona we show the world, the shadow, and connecting with the self. Our persona, the mask we present to society, can be very adept at hiding this internal lack or fear, even from ourselves. But life, through synchronicity, provides experiences that bypass the persona and knock on the door of the unconscious. The dreams we have, filled with powerful symbols, can also offer clues to what the unconscious is trying to communicate about these hidden states. Understanding these symbols can provide insights into the archetypes influencing our patterns of attraction. So, attracting what we are is life's way of saying, "Look here, this is what needs your attention." It's an invitation from the self, facilitated by the often challenging experiences triggered by the unconscious, to acknowledge and integrate these parts of ourselves. The ego's task is to move from reaction, feeling hurt, rejected, fearful, to conscious observation and processing. Instead of blaming the external situation or the other person, the ego learns to ask, what does this situation reveal about me? What part of my shadow is being activated? What truth about my unconscious is surfacing? This shift in perspective is painful, certainly, because it requires taking responsibility for our inner world rather than projecting it outwards. But it's also incredibly empowering. It moves us from being a passive recipient of life's difficulties to an active participant in our own healing journey. The goal isn't to build a stronger persona to shield ourselves, but to integrate the shadow, to heal the wounded child archetypes, and to align the ego more closely with the self, the organizing center of the psyche. This journey of individuation is guided by the self, sometimes through intuitive nudges or moments of synchronicity that confirm we are on the right path, even when it feels difficult. It requires courage to look at the unpleasant symbols that appear in dreams or the difficult truths reflected in our relationships. Ultimately, by facing the shadow and working through the unconscious patterns, we change what we are internally. And as our internal landscape shifts, what we attract externally naturally changes as well. We begin to attract relationships and experiences that resonate with a more integrated, healed, and authentic self, rather than those that mirror our old wounds or the defenses of the persona. This is the core of the process Carl Jung explored so deeply, transforming the inner state from one of lack or fear, which attracts absence and rejection, to one of wholeness and self-acceptance, which allows for the possibility of attracting connection and respect based on genuine being. It's a profound act of self-love rooted in the principles that understand how our internal world manifests externally. The painful patterns are thus not punishments, but precise feedback mechanisms. They show us exactly where the work needs to be done within the vast landscape of the unconscious. Ultimately, embracing the profound insights of Carl Jung reveals that the painful patterns we encounter are not random misfortunes, but powerful symbols guiding us towards individuation, a process where we integrate the shadow, soften the rigid persona, align the ego with the self, and explore the deeper of the unconscious. often illuminated by archetypes and messages found in dreams and moments of synchronicity. This courageous inner work is the true path to transforming our external reality, showing us that the capacity for attracting genuine connection lies within the healed self. Keep courageously exploring your inner landscape. The transformation is possible. What part of Jung's ideas resonated most deeply with you on this journey? If you consider yourself a deep thinker, ready to explore these profound psychological currents further, subscribe and activate notifications so you don't miss our next dive into the mysteries of the psyche.